the economy, the standard of living. There's a big gap in the political market for a party which supports wealth creation, backs British business, backs enterprise, emphasises that you can only talk about distributing money once you've had the wealth creation for business to make that possible, that believes in limited government but effective government within those limits. And I think that Reform does not offer that. The Labour Party certainly does not offer that. Andy Burnham's a very personable guy, but he's got, in my view, an excessive faith in the ability of government intervention.
Now, a focus on the economy is what the Tories need to rebuild the trust of the British public and British voters. That is the view of Sir David Lidington, who you may remember was effectively the Deputy Prime Minister to Theresa May. Hello to you.
Morning, Adam.
This whole question of what the Tories should do about the votes that they've lost to Reform and I don't know, perhaps even to restore Britain, how can they get them back?
I think that there's two things that the Tory party needs to do. I mean, I think the one is to show that it's got a commitment to a policy approach that prioritises competence, actually being consistent in what you say, having a coherent approach. And I think in terms of content, it's focusing on those things that every single opinion poll says matter most to people. And that is, above all, the economy, the standard of living. There's a big gap in the political market for a party which supports wealth creation, backs British business, backs enterprise, emphasises that you can only talk about distributing money once you've had the wealth creation for business to make that possible, that believes in limited government but effective government within those limits. And I think that Reform does not offer that. The Labour Party certainly does not offer that. Andy Burnham's a very personable guy, but he's got, in my view, an excessive faith in the ability of government intervention to get things right. And I think that the modest recovery we've seen in the Conservative Party's fortunes in the last of nearly a year now stems from Kemi Badenoch's decision in her party conference speech last year to put the economy first. To speak about that, and she and Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, have been pushing on that. But I think it takes time. Catastrophic defeat in 2024. I remember 1997 when Tony Blair won a landslide. It took a long time before people were willing to give the Tory party a hearing again. So I'd encourage Kemi to persist with the economy as the main theme, to develop policies that focus on that, because I think that what's driving support for populist parties is, above all, the fact that living standards in this country have stagnated for the best part of 20 years now, since the crash of 2008-9. And it's showing you good answers to that, and with businesses crying out for and wanting to back, is the way forward.
I mean, you say that Kemi Badenoch is concentrating on those policies, but she's also been speaking very loudly about tougher measures needing to deal with immigration, both legal and illegal. She has apparently barred former colleagues of yours, including Grant Shapps, from being Conservative candidates because they might not support her on Britain leaving the ECHR or on net zero policies. Now, all of that seems to me to be aligning the Conservative Party more closely with Reform UK. Would you agree?
I think I don't agree with everything that Kemi has said in the past year. And I do think that the Conservative Party will only get back into government if it is a broad-based movement. If you look at the statistics from the last general election, what the polling shows is that we lost roughly the same number of people to Reform, to our right, as we did to a mix of Labour, Lib Dem, Green on the left flank, and we had a lot of former Tory voters who stayed at home. We've also had clear evidence from recent by-elections in Northern England and for the Welsh Parliament in Wales, and in the Greater Manchester mayoral by-election just the other day, that when it comes to a forced choice, a lot of people who would normally be on the centre-right, who would vote Conservative or consider voting Conservative, will vote for almost anybody other than Reform. Now, there is a big vote now that is willing to vote tactically to stop a Reform candidate getting elected, which I think is why they underperformed in Greater Manchester, in Makerfield, in Denton, and in Caerphilly, when we had those electoral tests recently. So I just think it's a false choice to say the Tory party's got to go and get Reform voters back or move to the left. I think that those same voters want effective policies on wealth creation, enterprise and economy, and they're wanting a credible, firm but fair policy on immigration controls as well. What they don't want, I think most people in this country, is the sort of flirting with frankly racist comments and phrases that you get from some people associated with Reform. They don't want the pro-Putin language and actions you get from Reform. Let's not forget one of their key people is in prison now for accepting bribes from the Russians to support them. So I think it's an emphasis on the practical, and above all, an emphasis on wealth creation that is what is going to get the Tory back. But the party does need two wings to fly. You can't get an aircraft off the ground very, very easily if you just got one wing. And the Conservative Party has always been a movement, when it's been successful, that's taken in people from the centre-right through to the democratic right of British politics. Now, Kemi comes from the right of the party. I tend to come from the centre-right wing of the party. So we're not going to agree on everything, but Kemi's the 11th party leader since I signed up as a Tory party member in Margaret Thatcher's time. And I've had probably things I've agreed with, things I've disagreed with about every single leader in that time. It actually, you shouldn't look for uniformity in belief or purity tests. But I do think that there's a major political issues on, including credibility on effective migration control, but above all on the economy, job creation, wealth creation, backing British business, free enterprise, support for private property, where the Conservative Party can pull back people who voted to our left and to our right last time round, plus those who stayed at home because they just got fed up because they didn't think we were delivering on those things when we were in office.
Yes, but as things stand with Kemi Badenoch's policy, I mean, you wouldn't be eligible to stand as a Conservative MP again, would you?
Well, I've not applied, so I've not been put to the test, and I'm.
No, but what do you reckon, given your political beliefs?
I don't think it's likely to come up as a question. I don't, Adam. I'll be straight with you. I don't agree with these sort of tests of doctrine. I mean, Margaret Thatcher, went and campaigned in favour of Britain staying in the European community in the 1975 referendum, but she had people in the Conservative Party who were passionate pro-Europeans, the Ken Clarks, the Chris Pattons of this world, and she had people who really hated almost everything to do with Britain's participation in Europe, who were active Tory MPs. And I think the parties always needed to live with the fact that there will be, in a broad-based political movement, there is bound to be differences of opinion on particular policies from time to time, but unity over a broad set of values and philosophical approach, which in the Conservative case is support for institutions, a scepticism about the effectiveness of government to make the right judgments, trusting individual freedom, trusting personal responsibility, wealth creation, private property, free enterprise. Those are things that pull Conservatives together, whatever disagreements we might have on the details of particular policies. And I would like to see Kemi, emphasising the breadth of the Conservative Party tradition, because I think there's an awful lot of what she says, particularly on the economy, which a lot of people who come from the approach that I would support, and colleagues like Andy Street, Ruth Davidson, David Gauke support, which she could, she would win enthusiastically for doing that, and which certainly chime with everything that she herself has been saying.
Sir David Lidington, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us on Times Radio.